This morning I'm editing a report called What the Most Intelligent and Successful Humans Know About This Key Factor to Peak Performance. I'm writing about the challenges people have with sleep deprivation. See, society today demands of you a 24/7 involvement. Devices, your workplace, the goals and objectives people have are often based on a 24/7 schedule. It means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Oh, by the way, I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. If you want to operate at peak performance, to have more from life, to have better control over your own environment and the world around you, then understanding this critical key success factor helps you reach peak performance. Now, I also talk about in this report how there's one thing that impacts your ability to translate the world around you, to understand what's happening, to retain information, to make better decisions, to drive to the next level. And this one thing that if you have it in place, you will be more aware of what's happening in the world around you. See, today we have stress. So, for example, in the news, you see a lot about the Marxist theories that are going into our public education system. You see about equity and diversity. You see a lot of screaming and yelling about topics. And from both sides, it's nothing but chaos and argument. Now, recently, there was a gas shortage. Inflation is right around the corner. And all these things can cause you to lose sleep and ultimately have churn in your mind. But here's the interesting factor that most people don't understand. Everything that's happening in the world today has happened before. There are no precedences of the first time ever, the first this, the first that, completely new world. Now, that's how we describe it because humans have a limited lifespan. So if you are 40 years old today, you don't likely remember the gas shortages of the 1970s. You don't likely remember the civil rights battles and stuff of the 1960s. And you may not recognize individuals like Martin Luther King describing that we measure by the content of character rather than the color of skin. You may not have seen the struggles of other individuals who moved forward a society that was not advantageous to some individuals. Yet again, in that society that we're looking at through today's lens, there were many successes that are not discussed today. But without getting into that, if you want peak performance, you've got to walk away from the distractions because that news cycle is demanding your attention 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. CNN, for example, has news 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can tune in to find out what's happening. But again, it's that perception and lens, whether it's Fox or CNN or whatever news channel I don't recommend tuning into any news channel because it's the same thing over and over and over again, getting you into a cycle that distracts you from achievement, outcomes, and great decisions. Now, in writing this report that I'm putting together for some clients, we are covering that one factor that helps you have greater clarity of mind. It helps you live a longer, more vibrant life. It helps you have better memory and more stable emotions. It helps you improve motor function and the ability to think deeply. Now, this one factor, I could just tell it to you right now, and it would fit on the back of a business card. But the problem is that if you're in the state of deprivation, that you're having the symptoms of this lack or not having this particular element, then you might just shrug your shoulders and say, yeah, I already knew that. And in fact, you could probably think of things with constant demand on your time, constant demand on your attention, devices that ping and ring and demand you look at them every day because society is now monetizing your attention. You may know what this factor is, yet have you taken any action? Because without taking action in this particular area, you'll have mood swings. You'll be more tolerant to bad risks. See, I don't have a problem with risk. In fact, as a risk manager, I look at risks and I look at how you can control for risks. But unfortunately, when this is in place, you won't. It's just, you might maybe for a minute, but then you forget. Are you putting yourself at physical risk? Are you keeping your spouse awake at night? Are you making poor decisions or poorly utilizing the skills that you have? See, all these factors is the static or the friction that keeps you from reaching the goals and objectives that you desire. These frictions, these challenges in life all have the same root cause. And that's why when we talk about problem solving in the newsletter, we often tie that to the root cause analysis. See, there are times, and you likely agree with me, that you've figured it out. You know what the problem or obstacle is that's in your way, and then you don't do anything. But maybe you take a little immediate action because massive action is important, and you take some immediate action and then nothing improves. And then eventually you get distracted and go off and do something else. That is a symptom of not having this one key performance factor. And this is performance factor, anybody can have it. And that's what's interesting about this, because when I studied individuals like Thomas Edison, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, these individuals are praised by society and held up high. John D. Rockefeller. Now, there are times in society where they're vilified and then they're praised, but that's the spectrum of human response because many individuals have the lack of this key performance factor. Now, what else happens? Well, you end up with cognitive impairment. You end up with an increased tolerance for risk. You're very easy to persuade. In fact, cults use this. They actually remove this factor from individuals because they know it takes them away from peak performance. Now, what is peak performance? Peak performance is being able to do your very best. And when people are not able to do their very best, they often look for solutions in the oddest place. And so a cult or someone who wants to influence someone would come in and fill in the gaps with their theory, with their ideology, with their pseudo-religious approaches, so that you can now maintain that individual inside of a system where they have little or no control. Think about it this way. If you don't have this success factor, you're very often concerned every time your workplace talks about cost reduction or every time there's a bump in the marketplace. And the reason you're concerned is because in the back of your mind, you know something is not right and you don't have the things in place that are necessary to protect your interests should there be a sudden turn in the economy, should you be laid off from a job, should you miss out on that next opportunity. Because you've lost that stable foundation, which is the key performance factor that gives you clarity of mind, that helps you make better decisions, that helps you actually take action on key elements that are necessary to position you for the success that you deserve. Now, I'd like to go into the details of this report. As I said, I'm editing it this morning for a client, and it's called What the Most Intelligent and Successful Humans Know About This Key Factor to Peak Performance. I could go into it, but see, the report already in draft is 25 pages. So it's much more than what we're going to cover in a podcast. But I'll tell you what, I would love to answer your questions about that gap in your life. What is that one thing that you feel it's not quite right in your ability to make better decisions, in your ability to reach and achieve goals faster, and your ability to level up in your workplace or your business? What is that gap that exists to you that if we just removed it? And, have you ever had the day where your brain is foggy? It feels like you're hungover. You're not drinking or anything, but, it's like everything is cloudy. Some people say it's allergies. I'm having allergy challenges right now, and my eyes are cloudy and my brain is foggy. And by the way, this key performance factor will help you have better response to allergies in the environment. So it's like the allergies are irritants and challenges. It's the news people screaming. It's the latest protest. It's the latest fuel shortage. And your body's immune system and your mind is clear in order to handle these situations. But I know there's something nagging in the back of your mind that's keeping you from being that hero that we see in the media. Now, unfortunately, heroes in the media tend to be dead. And they're dead for a number of reasons, because often they're historic people that can be fantasized about. They can be, Steve Jobs is this, you can do a documentary on somebody who's passed away and say all kinds of things about him without anybody suing you. So it's easier to make heroes of people who are dead than it is of the living. But my point being is, what is that thing that's keeping you from being a hero in your life to your family? Being a hero to yourself, where you look in the mirror and you just know you've achieved so much, and you thank God for the blessings that are upon you, and then you have the stability in your life that it's not nagging that this all could be taken away. Sure, you could doubt that you're deserving of it. That's a very there's often a belief when you have high levels of success that you don't deserve it, or that you've stumbled into this. That's a normal nagging, but there's that also nagging that you're just one step away from complete destruction. And when people find out what a fraud you are, everything is going to fall apart. That nagging belief, or that feeling that crosses your mind periodically, is part of what gets in the way of peak performance. It is possible to achieve peak performance, to get to the next level, to drive forward to outcomes and results, and not have that brain fog, that doubt. Now, you don't want overconfidence. There's a balance here. But again, being able to think clearly, being able to increase your strength in the marketplace, be able to increase your strength personally, be able to have that lifestyle that protects your interests, whether or not you're thinking about them. Well, there's something that you know to be true. I'm going to argue that you can remove this truth and replace it with outcomes. But ultimately, what is stopping you from peak performance? I'd like you right now to go visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com. You're going to go to the contact page, and you're going to start typing up a letter, open Word, writing it by hand, doesn't matter to me. You're going to write up a letter. Now, this is a cognitive imposition, because most people, they just shoot off an email somewhere. I want you to write, first off, what is the biggest challenge or problem that's keeping you from peak performance? Now, I don't know what peak performance is for you. So describe the problem and how it is getting in the way. Next, you're going to write how easy, tell me how easy or how hard it's been to find good practical solutions. You could tell me about some of the challenges that you've had in the past. You can tell me about how you've addressed these obstacles and they've not cleared. And then finally, you're going to describe to me what life might be like when this obstacle is eliminated and replaced with outcome-oriented exercises or activities that are sustainable, meaning you can keep doing them forever and you're never going to have a problem with no physical reaction to it, no brain fog, no loss of sleep, no frustration, no excessive medical bills due to high levels of stress. It's just a simple 3-step exercise. Now, I want you to mail that to me in the post office by the mail, and there's an address on the website, or you can fax it to my office. Now, listen carefully. I offer this exercise. One or two things are going to happen. When you're done writing this little essay, which might be a page, it might be 2 pages, you're going to print it out, you're going to read it, and you're going to say, holy crap, I can solve this problem. Now, I'd still like to know what the problem is, and we have support systems in place to help you maintain, because if you've got this key performance factor missing, you're going to do this exercise and you're not going to have any follow-up. Like in 3 months, nothing's going to happen. There's something going on right now with modern humans having the ability to stay up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, having the ability to have on-demand information. It's made us a little scatterbrained. But if you take this 3-step exercise and you write a narrative or just a little tiny list of bullet points, what's the big challenge keeping you from peak performance? How hard has it been, or how easy has it been to find answers? And then finally, what would life be like with this resolved? And you send it to my office. I promise we'll follow up with you in 3 weeks. I'll put you on a series and I'll follow up with you. Now, we're not going to have salespeople call you or anything like that. I'm not selling anything. I'm just telling you about this report I'm editing. It's a huge value to my clients, and it's a result of a consultation. But the main point I'm making here is this exercise alone will open your eyes, except without this key performance factor. You will not take the action necessary. And we need you to take the action. Inside strategic relations is about clarity of thought, the ability to think rational and have critical thinking skills to solve problems, and then to take the action necessary. So if you'll indulge me and even write a one-page, fax it or mail it to my office. I like to get mail. I like to get postal mail. But fax it and mail it to my office rather than just rip it off in an email and send it out. I will take responsibility to send you a copy of this report when it's done. The report is a $297 report. The client has invested time in it. And as with all my paid consultations, you understand that I'll write you some kind of action plan or I'll provide you some kind of response because I got all these reports that I've written over the years anyway. And I want to get you a manuscript copy of this because with your feedback, I think this will be a quality book or report that will help a larger marketplace. Now, of course, I'm working directly with this client. They're going to get the report. We're going to hold them accountable. We're going to set up an action plan. In fact, there is a 7-step program that we've agreed to work with. Now, I'm going to tell you about that program, but I'm not going to try to get you in the program because it's really a one-on-one activity, very custom tailored to this individual. But the secret to unlocking this key performance factor is the exercise I'm sharing in this podcast. Now, I know thousands of people are listening to this podcast and only one or two will actually do anything. And they'll go to the website, they'll click the contact, they'll write the little essay, get halfway through a page, and then the phone will ring. See, that's an example of those external demands on your time and attention that are in fact impairing you and keeping you from the outcomes and successes that you desire. So take this 3-step exercise. Have the courage to look objectively at your life. And then write down with honesty and sincerity. These reports will not be shared with anybody. In fact, you can leave basic contact information. If you send something by mail, I'll likely mail you a letter back. Now, we're not going to be pen pals or anything, but I sincerely want to help you, and that's why I want to give you a copy of this manuscript, What the Most Intelligent and Successful Humans Know About This Key Factor to Peak Performance. My client will get it first, but you'll get a manuscript copy. I would love to get your feedback. In fact, the manuscript goes over the 7 steps. It shares facts. It gives you a fast start action plan, but I need you to raise your hand first. And for you to raise your hand, just this simple exercise of addressing the obstacle, that myth, that thought, that thing in the back of your mind that's keeping you, that constant failure or challenge that's, you got success, but you could be twice as successful, 10 times as successful. What's stopping you? Write it down. Think about it. How hard or how easy has it been to find solutions? You're listening to this podcast. You're searching for answers. What would life be like if you had the answers and a logical and focused way to achieve the outcomes you desire? So again, this is unlocking what most intelligent and successful humans know about, that key factors to peak performance. If you desire peak performance, if you desire more control over your life, if you want outcomes that others have perhaps even told you that you could not achieve. Well, folks, everybody listening to this program are high earners already. How do we get to the next level? How do you go from $150,000 a year to $200,000 a year? How do you go from $100,000? Here, this is the crazy thing. Before we leave, I was working with a client in the past. They make $45,000 a year. Okay, and you say, whoa, $45,000 a year. That's their adjusted gross income. Okay. So between them and the IRS, they make $45,000 a year. Their gross earnings is more than $1.5 million. Now, they receive the funds in businesses and family office and different ways, trusts and such. But on their tax return, they can modestly say that they're one of the average earners. Yet their lifestyle is far beyond what most people ever imagined. Now, I'm not saying they've got a huge mansion or anything. I'm just saying that if something happens in the economy, if there's bad news, if there's riots in the streets, if there's frustrations, they have the clarity of mind because they do this one thing. They have the clarity of the mind to make decisions and the ability to provide for their family for generations. This is the result. And believe me, when I run across somebody like this, and I might do an editing assignment for them, I might do an analysis of a market. I'm not necessarily helping them do these things. I'm basically a reporter. I'm observing, I'm researching, documenting, and I'm saying, wow, that's interesting. How is it that you only earn $145,000 a year when clearly there's more than $45,000 a year going on in here? And so I go to that root cause and I realize the supporting factors that make the solution boil down to like one simple thing that, if in place, gave this individual the clarity of focus, the ability to be creative without risk, the ability to take on appropriate risks, the ability to get a full day out of every day. And it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't what society demands. And in fact, this individual stepped out of the rat race in a sense. Now, of course, there could be selection bias here. So I actually, that's why this report is being written, because I went in for another client who had a similar challenge, and I started doing the research. I started doing the meta-analysis, and I started looking at individuals that society holds in high esteem and what were the habits that they perform across the board. Not the things that some of them do because there are anomalies, but the things that all of them do. And again, I found this key performance factor. And over the years, it's been quite a few years working on this topic with one-on-one clients. But over the years, I found this commonality. I've documented it for this particular client here because it has come up again. And I've taken my notes, I've taken my case studies, I've put it all together in what the most intelligent and successful humans know about this key factor to peak performance. And if you'll take the simple exercise of describing what's keeping you from peak performance, I'll give you a manuscript copy of this report that has a $297 value. And the manuscript copy is yours to keep, no obligation, but it would be great if you'd read it, because you're sending me a note that tells me what your problem is. I'm sending you a potential solution, and we got to get past that brain fog to take a simple action. And the report's only 25 pages so far right now. It might be about 50 pages when we're done. The way I do this is I write these reports and we'll sit down with clients. The clients will give me feedback. I'll give them a copy of the report. It's an unpublished report. They get a few months to work with it. And then my select clients and individuals like yourself can get a manuscript copy either by an event that I do or by what I'm just describing here. And then you get the benefit too. But real knowledge, the things that work, are not floating around on the internet. There's a whole intellectual dark web that we hope to help you get access to, but ultimately is not available. So again, let me wrap up this podcast with, I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations, where we help you transform business relationships into profits. I revealed to you today that there is a key performance factor that most modern humans are missing, and society creates a situation where you don't get access to this because of the manipulation and the control factors that it brings for the individual who knows this factor exists. And if you'll go to my website at www.insidestrategicrelations.com and write or fax to me the little challenge that we talked about, the big challenge, what's the challenge that's stopping you from peak performance? How hard or how easy has it been to find a solution? And what would life be like? If you invest in just one page in this, it will reveal unto you those things that you had not known existed before. And ultimately, if you'll send it to my office, I'll send you a manuscript copy of this report I'm working on. It might be a couple weeks before the report's done because, again, I'm going to sit down with the client. We're going to go over some details on it. And usually these reports go to their top performers because they don't want their top performers to burn out. But again, www.insidestrategicrelations.com. Thanks for listening.